Two young women set out for what should have been a completely ordinary trip. But before the day is over, they find themselves trapped inside a nightmare no one would ever believe. One wrong decision, one seemingly harmless encounter, and suddenly, every familiar rule of safety disappears, leaving them completely at the mercy of something far more terrifying than they could have imagined. Today's movie follows a chilling mystery where trust becomes the deadliest mistake of all, and every answer only leads to an even darker secret. As the story unfolds, you'll discover how a routine journey spirals into a terrifying fight for survival that will keep you questioning who can really be trusted until the very end. The movie opens by introducing us to two young women named Katie and Sloane. Both of them are agriculture students, absolutely buzzing with excitement because they're about to head off to a large farm in New York to continue their studies. Their faces are glowing with the thrill of this new adventure ahead. The next day, their uncle Jason comes to pick them up. Jason is no ordinary man. He's a trained FBI agent, sharp, methodical, and always switched on no matter the situation. He first brings both girls back to his place, where they get to meet his girlfriend, who greets them with genuine warmth and is thrilled to have them around. The following morning, Jason drives them to the bus stop and waits with them. The bus is still a few minutes out, and both girls tell him to go ahead to work and promise to text him the moment they arrive safely. Jason, being the cautious man he is, tells them to use a personal code word system in their messages back to him. That way, even if someone else ever got hold of their phones, he would immediately know from the pattern whether they were truly safe or not. Katie smiles and says she will use the word apple as her code. Jason shakes his head and tells her to use a different letter of the alphabet each and every time, so the system stays completely unpredictable. Both girls laugh at how seriously he thinks everything through. Not long after, Jason heads off to work, with absolutely no idea that within just a few hours, everything was about to go terribly wrong. While Katie and Sloane are still waiting at the bus stop, two young men driving past notice them and spend a long moment staring before continuing on their way. Not long after, Katie and Sloane decide to step into a nearby restaurant to grab a coffee while they wait. And within just minutes, those same two men show up at the very same place. Their names were Jed and Lucas. There was something in the way they looked at the two girls, a quiet and unsettling kind of interest, though neither Katie nor Sloane could quite pin down why it felt off. Jed and Lucas ease their way into a conversation with both girls in a completely relaxed and natural manner, and the exchange quickly feels friendly and casual. During the conversation, Katie mentions that the two of them are heading to an agriculture farm in New York for their studies. Jed immediately smiles and says that they happen to be heading in exactly the same direction. The coincidence seems harmless on the surface, and their behavior is so completely normal throughout that neither girl has any real reason to feel worried. A little while later, when Jed and Lucas get up to leave, Sloane convinces Katie that they should just ride along since they are headed the same way anyway. Both girls climb into the car, but after a short time on the road, Katie starts to notice that the direction they are taking does not line up with where the farm is supposed to be at all. Instead of heading toward New York, Jed and Lucas take them down a narrow back road that eventually leads to a rundown and isolated house sitting right at the edge of a dense and dark forest. Both girls feel a wave of unease wash over them. Katie speaks up immediately and says they were supposed to be going to the farm, demanding to know why they had been brought here. Both she and Sloane insist that the car be turned around right now. But before either of the men can respond, the front door of the house swings open and an older woman steps outside. She is Jed and Lucas's mother, and she is wearing a smile that feels a little too relaxed and too warm for what this situation actually is. She speaks in a sweet and inviting tone, telling both girls to come inside for some tea and assuring them there is nothing to worry about at all. She says Jed and Lucas will take them straight to the farm once they have had a moment to rest. The whole setup was deeply off, but the woman's calm demeanor kept just enough doubt alive that Katie and Sloane still could not fully read the danger they were walking into. They followed her inside. A short while later, Katie receives a text from Uncle Jason checking in on them. She texts him back using the code word apple, signaling that all is well. Jason reads the message and feels completely reassured. He has no idea whatsoever what is actually unfolding at that very moment. Meanwhile, Jed and Lucas's mother brings out food and something to drink and sets everything down in front of both girls. The moment Katie and Sloane consume what has been placed before them, something immediately feels deeply wrong. Their eyelids grow impossibly heavy. Their bodies start to lose balance. The food and drink had been laced with a powerful drug. By the time they both understood what had been done to them, the panic had already taken complete hold. They staggered to their feet and tried desperately to run. But they barely make it a few steps outside before both of them collapse entirely and lose consciousness on the ground. Jed and Lucas come out calmly, pick both girls up without a single word, and carry them back inside. The next time Katie and Sloane open their eyes, everything around them is completely unrecognizable. They're no longer inside any building. They are deep in the middle of a vast and suffocating forest, and both of their wrists are locked in heavy iron chains. Nothing surrounds them but trees, total darkness, and a silence so dense it feels alive and crushing. Both of them completely fall apart, screaming for help with everything they have. But then Zed steps out of the shadows and tells them in a flat and emotionless voice that they are deep inside a part of the forest where not a single other human being lives for miles in any direction. Screaming is pointless. No one is coming. His words land with a terrifying finality. Shortly after, a man named Boris arrives. He is holding Katie's phone in his hand. He looks at her and tells her that a message came in from someone named Jason. He says the last thing she sent was the word apple and demands to know what it means. Katie immediately understands that every single one of her messages has been monitored. With fear tightening around her, she tells him that apple is simply a code word meaning that the two of them are safe. The moment Boris hears this, he takes the phone and types out a reply to Jason himself, writing that everything is fine and including the apple code word to make it look completely convincing. Back on the other end, Jason reads the message and has no reason to question it. He has no idea whatsoever that his nieces are living through something unimaginably horrific. What follows in that forest is a series of deeply degrading and violent acts carried out against both girls, the kind of treatment no person should ever be subjected to, and their situation is becoming more terrifying with every passing hour. Then something happens that briefly brings a flash of hope back to both girls. A sheriff arrives at the location. Katie and Sloane see him, and immediately their eyes fill with relief. A law enforcement officer is right here in front of them. They call out to him desperately, pouring everything they have into begging him for help. But within just a short while, that fragile sliver of hope is completely and cruelly shattered. It becomes horrifyingly clear that this police officer is not there to help them at all. He is directly involved. He is working alongside Jed, Lucas, and Boris. The moment this reality sets in, both girls feel something inside them go cold in a way it had never gone cold before. There is no one here who is going to protect them. Not a single person in this place has any intention of helping. To make things worse, the corrupt officer takes some kind of dangerous substance to intensify himself physically, and then he chooses Katie. What happens next will not be described in detail here, but when the officer eventually steps back out of Katie's container, the state she is left in makes unmistakably clear what she was put through. Meanwhile, on the other side of all of this, Jason is sitting with a growing and specific unease. He is looking back through the messages Katie has sent him, and something is not adding up. He knows her well enough to know she would never use the exact same code word twice in a row. That was the entire point of the system he set up. A different letter every single time. But the last two messages both used apple. That one detail is enough to set every alarm bell inside him going off at once. Something is very wrong. He is certain of it now. He does not wait. He starts moving immediately. While Jason is beginning to piece things together on the outside, the nightmare inside the forest is only getting worse. A drunk and deeply disturbed man is sent into Sloane's container. What he does to her inside is brutal and relentless. Her screams tear through the trees and carry out into the empty forest around them. On the other side of that container wall, Katie sits completely powerless, forced to hear every single second of it with nothing she could do to make it stop. It is one of the most devastating moments in the entire film. These men are not simply holding them captive. They are running a human trafficking operation, using Katie and Sloane as product, cycling through customers in a location so remote that no one from the outside world would ever hear sound. Back on his end, Jason picks up the phone and calls the agriculture farm in New York, where both girls were supposed to have arrived by now. The moment he asks about Katie and Sloane, the answer he gets stops him completely cold. The farm staff tell him that neither girl ever showed up. Not even close. That single piece of information confirms every fear Jason has been carrying since he first noticed the repeated code word. His nieces are in serious danger, and they have been in serious danger since the moment he drove away from that bus stop. He drops everything without hesitation and immediately sets out to find them, fueled by the kind of focused and ice-cold determination that only a trained FBI agent is capable of bringing into a situation like this. Back at the forest location, the horrors pressing down on both girls continue without pause. Each time a new customer is about to arrive, Jed and Lucas cover the faces of Katie and Sloane with a cloth so they cannot be seen until someone makes a selection. And every single customer who comes to that place is wearing the exact same thing. A pig mask. Always a pig mask, concealing every feature of their face so that no one could ever identify who they truly are on the outside. When a customer steps inside, Jed and Lucas pull the cloth away and force the girls to stand before him. But this time, the moment Katie and Sloane get a clear look at the man standing in front of them, both of them are overwhelmed with raw and primal terror. Something about the way he looked and moved was beyond frightening. He was visibly disturbed in a way that felt entirely different and far worse than the others. The man looks them both over and chooses Sloane. He takes her into the container. From the outside, all Katie can hear are Sloane's cries of pain, pouring out and filling the air while she stands there helpless, shackled, and absolutely unable to do anything to stop it. When a man finally leaves and Katie runs to Sloane, what she finds breaks her entirely. Sloane is shattered. Her eyes carry a hollow and devastated look that no human being should ever have to wear. The two of them hold onto each other in the dark. And in that moment, quietly and without a single word, Katie makes a decision that will not be changed. Jason makes his way to the restaurant where Katie and Sloane were last seen on the day they disappeared. He tracks down a staff member and starts pressing for information about two young men the girls may have spoken with that day. After a moment of thought, the employee gives Jason a description connected to a vehicle belonging to a man named Boris. It is not a lot, but it is the first real and concrete lead Jason has managed to get his hands on, and he moves on it without wasting a second. Back in the forest, things shift into something critical. Boris pulls Zed aside and speaks in a low and urgent voice, far enough from the containers that he is confident no one can hear. He tells Zed flatly that both girls need to be eliminated as quickly as possible. An FBI agent is actively looking for them, and the longer Katie and Sloane stay alive, the greater the risk becomes for everyone involved in the operation. Boris says they need to move on to fresh girls from the city and that these two cannot be kept around any longer. What Boris does not know is that Katie is standing close enough to the edge of her container to catch every word of that conversation. She hears all of it. She knows now with complete and absolute certainty that they're going to be killed, and that is going to happen soon. There is no more time to sit and wait. Whatever she is going to do, she has to do it right now. After the conversation ends, Boris goes into Katie's container and subjects her to yet another round of brutal treatment. But something fundamental has shifted inside her. The fear is still there, but underneath it, something harder and far colder has taken its place. With his first real lead in hand, Jason digs further and tracks down the vehicle insurance records linked to Boris, using them to pull a physical home address. It takes focus and urgency, but he gets exactly what he needs. Now he has somewhere to go. He moves fast. Across the city, something remarkable and completely unexpected happens back at the forest location. Katie spots her window. A drunk and unstable man has been left behind to keep watch over both girls while Zed and Boris step away. Katie begins to slowly and deliberately draw his attention toward herself, giving him every impression that she is willing to let him come close. And the moment he steps right up beside her, Katie explodes with every ounce of strength she has left and bites down as hard as she can into his throat. The wound is catastrophic. Blood pours from him instantly, and within seconds he collapses and dies on the ground. Katie does not stop to process what just happened. She reaches into his pocket, finds the key to the shackles, and frees both herself and Sloane as fast as she can. When the corrupt police officer pulls up to the location shortly after, Katie and Sloane move quietly and with precision, slip into his car, and drive away from that place before anyone realizes what is happening. They drive until they reach a mall. And what they do inside that mall is not what you would expect from two young women who just survived something that traumatic. They do not look for a phone or a place to sit down and fall apart. Picking up an assortment of tools, makeshift weapons, and supplies, Boris is at his home completely relaxed, sitting back and listening to music with absolutely no idea what is already in motion and heading directly toward him. Both girls come through the door fully prepared. They have taken a tennis ball and driven dozens of sharp metal nails through its entire surface. Before Boris can react, Katie launches it directly into his face with everything she has. The impact drops him immediately. When he comes back around, he finds himself strapped tightly to a table with no ability to move at all. For the first time since this nightmare began, the fear belongs to someone else. Boris immediately starts bargaining, telling them he will give them any amount of money they want if they simply let him go. But money means absolutely nothing to either of them anymore. What they want is the identity of the man behind the pig mask, the one who chose Sloane. Under the weight of pure terror, Boris tells them everything. And then, without any mercy whatsoever, both girls make him pay for every single thing he has done. Boris is already dead by the time Jason reaches the front door and makes his way inside. He stops completely still for a few seconds as he takes in what he sees in that room. Then from outside, he hears an engine start up and he sprints to the door, but it is too late. Katie and Sloane are already gone, leaving nothing behind but tire tracks and unanswered questions. Jason has no way of knowing what they are doing or where they are heading next. What he does know is that they are alive, they are out. He heads straight back to the police station, returning to the same officer he had spoken with before, still not knowing that this man has been corrupt and complicit the entire time. As Jason stands inside the station, pushing for information and trying to move forward, he reaches for his phone to call Katie directly. But as he does, his eyes land on the officer standing across from him, and specifically on what is sitting in the man's jacket pocket. It is Katie's phone, the exact same phone that was taken from her the moment she was captured, the one Boris had been using to send fake-coded messages to Jason all along. Everything falls into place in one single, sickening instant. Jason now knows exactly who this man is and what he has been part of. But before he can do anything with that knowledge, the corrupt officer clocks the recognition on Jason's face and moves first, drawing his weapon and pointing it directly at Jason, leaving him with no room to act. While Jason is being held at gunpoint inside the station, Katie and Sloane have arrived at a church in town. This is exactly where the information Boris gave them has led them. And, standing right there before them, is the confirmation of something profoundly disturbing. The man who wore that pig mask, the one who was brought in as a customer and chose Sloane, is not some anonymous face from outside the community. He is the church's own father, a man in a position of complete spiritual trust and public respect. Katie comes at him from behind without hesitation and knocks him unconscious. Then the two of them drag him outside, tie him to the back of a vehicle, and drive slowly through the center of town, pulling him behind them along the street. They pull over, walk into a shop, and come back out carrying a bottle of fuel and a box of matches. And right there in the open, they set the church father on fire and watch him burn. It is a moment of absolute and unshakable cold fury, the kind that only exists in a person who has been through the very worst and has come out the other side with nothing left to lose and no interest in restraint. Back at the police station, the corrupt officer has Jason fully restrained and tied to a chair. Not long after, the officer brings in a new group of young girls he has kidnapped, fully intending to do to them exactly what was done to Katie and Sloane. But just as he is about to act, Katie and Sloane appear silently behind him. They have come back. The moment they see their opening, both of them swing hard and bring something heavy crashing down on the back of the officer's head. He goes down instantly, unconscious before he hits the floor. When he comes back around, he finds himself in the exact same position he put Jason in, tied to a chair. And this time there is no badge, no gun within reach, and absolutely nothing left to bargain with. The two faces looking down at him are completely beyond fear and entirely beyond any offer he could make. Katie and Sloane give him nothing. He is killed. After that, they go to the other girls the officer had brought in and set every one of them free. Then Katie turns and tells those girls to go ahead and untie the man still sitting in the chair, nodding toward Jason. Katie and Sloane walk out without another word. A short while later, the freed girls do exactly what they were told and release Jason from the restraints. They tell him simply that two girls asked them to let him go. Jason sits there for a moment, and then it all lands. He knows exactly who those two girls are. While all of this is unfolding, we cut to another thread of the story. Jed and Lucas's mother is sitting alone inside that same house where all of this began, drinking and completely oblivious to what is on its way to her. But then something in her drink starts to feel different. Her vision blurs, and her body begins to give out beneath her. Within seconds, she is unconscious on the floor. When she comes to, she finds herself tied to a chair. And sitting directly in front of her, staring back with expressions made entirely of stone, are Katie and Sloane. But the worst part is not that. Jed is also in the room, tied up and completely helpless, right before his own mother's eyes. She immediately breaks down crying. But the faces looking back at her do not move and do not react. Right there in front of his mother, Katie and Sloane kill Jed without any hesitation at all. His mother watches every single second of it and falls completely apart. But neither girl pauses for even a moment, because they both know exactly what this woman knew and exactly what she allowed to happen inside her own home. Then Katie and Sloane drag the mother over to where Lucas is being held at gunpoint. Katie hands Lucas a heavy object and tells him plainly and directly that if he wants to stay alive, he needs to use it on his own mother right now. Lucas is shaking uncontrollably. He takes it in his trembling hands, but he cannot bring himself to swing it. He freezes entirely. And in that same instant, without any pause at all, Sloane raises the gun and shoots him. Lucas dies on the spot. Sloane then calmly wipes the weapon clean, wraps Lucas's hand around it, and positions everything carefully to make it appear as though a violent confrontation broke out between mother and son and both ended each other. Clean, deliberate, and completely untraceable. Now only the mother is left. She is completely broken. Her whole body is trembling, and she can barely get words out through her tears. She looks at Katie and Sloane and begs them through her sobbing to let her go, telling them she will give them everything she owns, every single dollar, if they will just walk away. Both girls hear this, and something that sounds almost like laughter escapes from them, because money has not entered either of their minds since the moment that drugged food hit their system back in that house. All that exists inside them now is the full and accumulated weight of every single thing they were put through, every hour shackled in that forest, every sound they were forced to listen to, every moment of helplessness and pain and total abandonment. Sloane picks up a sharp cutting tool, and the mother's story ends there. The film then moves forward by a few days. We see Jason making his way to Katie and Sloane's home to check on them. The two girls standing at that door are not the same two girls who were glowing with excitement about heading off to a farm in New York. They look older in a way that has nothing to do with how much time has passed. Their eyes carry something deep and permanent, a weight that belongs only to people who have been through the absolute worst and came out the other side, changed in ways that cannot be undone. Jason sees it. He's here to take them back to New York. And on that quiet and heavy final note, the film closes. If this story hit you the way it was meant to, go ahead and drop a like and leave a comment below telling us what you thought. We put out new movie breakdowns regularly, So make sure you are subscribed and have your notifications turned on so you never miss a single one.